All right, there's our next episode of True Wrestling Fan Discussions, continuing the adventures of Hulk Hogan. This is going to be Hulk Hogan's return to the WWF in 2002. I'm your host, Mike.
I'm Frank. Man, let's get into this. I feel like we've been on this for like 2 years. Well, this little tale starts in 2001, actually, prior to him going back to the WWE. He had underwent surgery on his knees in order for him to wrestle again. To test out his knees, Hogan worked a match in Orlando, Florida for the XWF, Excitement Wrestling Federation, promoted by the longtime manager and friend Jimmy Hart, where he fought none other than Kurt Hennig in a winning effort. So he said he felt healthy enough to accept Vince's offer to return to the WWE in February 2002.
Well, I'm sure the money didn't hurt either.
Oh yeah, exactly. So funny thing about his return in 2002, this is coming off the whole consortium thing with, after the alliance. Vince wants to kill his creation. If he can't have it, nobody can. Sounds like what he's trying to do now. So he's going to inject a lethal dose of poison, and he's going to inject it with the NWO.
It's
So
pretty
this is
crazy.
how, yeah,
Not only are you getting the NWO and the WWF, right? We never thought we'd see that. You're getting the
no,
return of Hulk Hogan to the WWF
yes,
at the same time.
something else we never thought we'd ever get to
Right.
see.
So I remember being really, really, really pumped up about this. I've
I
told
was
this
psyched
story.
about
I've
it.
told this story on another episode. I forget which one. It might have been the NWO episode. I don't remember which one it was. How I called you. You were working, and I called you at work because I had just read it on the internet when they signed, and I said Hogan. So NWO signed, man. They're back. So it's been,
I couldn't believe it. Matter of fact, the night of the pay per view, I was at my cousin's graduation, and I actually told somebody, I said, "Look, I need to leave early. I have a prior engagement. I really wanted to go home again and see this."
yeah, No Way Out 2002.
Yep. Hulk Hogan returned along with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash to the event in Milwaukee, Wisconsin,
Mm.
and they targeted The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now, the skit with The Rock that night was just classic.
Oh, even before
Hogan
that,
wants to take the picture with him.
even
Or,
before that, that great promo that they cut, man, when each of them spoke, when Hogan spoke last, and everyone just started cheering, going crazy, man, and they were acting like they were gonna be good, like they were baby faces. You know that they were full of it. You know they're heels.
yeah.
But yeah,
Oh, we
then
promise we'll behave ourselves.
yeah. So then
But
let's
it
get
was
with the
great.
Rock.
They take the photo. He takes the photo with him, and he says something like "the people's chump," and he goes, What was that?
Mm.
No, 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 no." I love that he says, "You take the camera, you give it to Chico, Razor Ramon, and then you give it to
Mm. Big
these."
Daddy
I
Cool.
loved it. You know this was Vince saying, "Okay, I'm gonna have a little bit of fun on you guys, considering how y'all left. This is gonna be kind of a little bit of a payback skit."
I think they saw Stone Cold backstage too, right? And they were
Yeah,
like, "Oh, let
that
him."
same night,
I
yeah.
think Hogan told him, let him walk by, brothers," or something like that. Then of course
Hmm.
they interfere in his match and they give him a beating at the end
Yep,
of the night.
Austin's last ever title match in the
Yeah.
WWE against Chris Jericho. The NWO got involved.
Yeah.
Jericho kept the title. Um, what's funny is actually Hogan wrestled his first match in WWE against. It was a live event, and he beat Rikishi,
It was a house
which
show.
I thought was pretty cool.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It was in
but
Florida
it
too,
was
close to
just
Hogan's house.
yeah, Rikishi, who's doing it for The Rock and he's
He had to
doing
work
nothing,
on
and he
he had to
loses to
work out the
Hogan.
he had to work out the ring rust, so they had to like just get him in there to see where he was. That had been a while, really. I mean, not counting that match that he had against Hangman.
No,
So when NWO shows up on Raw, initially they're gonna I don't know if you remember this. This is when Stone Cold was pissed about what happened. So he goes on strike and he's in the middle of the ring and he's calling out the NWO and he's got his chair and he's sitting down. The NWO music comes out, they come to the ramp and they just turn around and walk away. Stone Cold gets pissed. Later on the night, they show Hall, Nash, and Hogan. They're gonna leave, and then Hogan's like, "You know what, brothers? You guys go ahead.
something that he had to do.
There's something I gotta handle by myself." And then he walks away. And I think he says later SmackDown or he says something referring to The Rock. I
Mhm.
forget what it is. Goes to the ring. He starts off like a babyface promo about he's like, Hulkamaniacs, it's good to be back. And we lifted. Remember we did it together. We lifted Andre the Giant, all 700 pounds of him over our heads. And then Jim Ross is like, oh, what an exaggerator. And then he says,
Yeah,
but then something happened and you guys turned on
turns
me.
you.
And
Yeah.
then that's when he goes into the whole thing. I'm the biggest icon this business has ever seen. There's nobody bigger than I am. And then the Rock's music comes out.
Rock hits his music,
Hmm.
comes into the ring, and he tells him, "The fans believed in you.
Hmm.
The Rock believed in
Yeah,
you."
yep.
And that's when the famous line came after that. He goes, "You talk about headlining
Headlining.
WrestleMania after WrestleMania after WrestleMania. Well, how about you main event one more WrestleMania with The Rock?" And the freaking
Oh,
place
the roof
went
blew
nuts.
off the place. Yeah, it was crazy. That was the moment. It's one of the best promos ever. You know, when you think
Another
about it.
thing you can check off in 2002 that you thought you'd never see.
Hmm.
Hogan, well, anybody, Hogan is anybody in
Yeah, yeah,
WWE,
no, no, no.
but especially The Rock.
We never thought we were gonna see that. That was a great promo. And then he says, "You're gonna good luck. You're gonna need
You're gonna
it."
need
And
not
then
as much as you,
brother,
brother.
and then he rock
Rock
bottoms him.
bottom.
And then the NWO, who you thought had left, they came
Yeah,
down
right.
and they gave the Rock a beating. And then to top it off, they try to kill him. The Rock was in the ambulance because I think Hogan hit him before that when they
Yeah,
jumped
for
him.
life,
Hogan,
brothers.
oh man, so they hit the ambulance. The Rock isn't. They chain it right. They chain the
They
ambulance,
chained the back door. Yeah,
and then they hit it. Oh, that was wild.
hit it with the truck. And you know what's
They're still
funny
cheering
is
for him.
the WWE the SmackDown game that came out that year, they actually put that
Did they?
in there. Once you get to one in the storyline mode, once you get to February of that last year, that's when the NWO comes into the game,
Yeah,
and they actually do that thing with the truck. No matter who you pick, you're feuding with
yeah,
Hogan, and you're getting hit with the truck.
that was crazy.
And this was just chaotic. Now we've talked about Hogan's opponent at WrestleMania originally was supposed to be Stone Cold Steve
What was
Austin.
the idea? That was the idea. That was the
The
idea. They
idea
liked the
now,
idea.
according to Jim Ross, Austin didn't like the matchup from a stylistic point
Right.
of view. He believed his style and Hogan's
It would
style was like
clash,
oil and water.
which we probably would be at that point. Hogan really couldn't move that
Yeah,
well, and
not to
Austin,
mention the fact that neither one of them wanted to drop to the other.
and that was that was a
Hogan
problem.
didn't want to drop to Austin.
No.
Austin didn't want to drop to Hogan. Now, according to Bruce Pritchard on his podcast, the WWE thought they'd have the chance to make Austin and Hogan down the road,
Right,
and that's
eventually,
why
yeah.
they booked Rock and Hogan first.
Right,
But
right, right.
unfortunately,
It wasn't. Yeah.
he took the ball and went home, and it never
Mhm.
transpired. So on March 11, 2002, Hogan, Hall, and Nash defeated Austin and The Rock in a 3-on-2 handicap match. So they were getting they were getting the upper hand
Yeah,
on
Hogan
these
got
two
the
guys
leg
as they
drop.
would,
Yeah, Hogan got the leg drop on him.
and the fans were still kind of
Hmm.
cheering it.
Yeah,
No matter what they did in his return,
they kept cheering him.
you could take out their two top tier guys in there, and it don't matter. They're still going to cheer him because
Yeah.
these are the WWE fans, and they know their boy has come home.
Yep.
So, and I'm still saying to this day at WrestleMania 18, I'm really surprised Hogan did business and he jobbed to The Rock. I I couldn't believe that he did that with his ego. That
Because he
he
liked him.
actually did it.
Because he liked him.
Apparently liked him so much that after the match he extended his hand to The Rock, in which Hall and Nash were irate about that. Who were
Well,
already pissed off from early in the night.
well, the thing was, I mean, to get into the match, no one expected Hogan to get cheered the way he got cheered in Toronto. It was a tremendous match, tremendous crowd reaction. The Rock has to end up working heel because Hogan is too over with the crowd.
And
They're
you know,
cheering for
there
him.
were a few moments in that match. We've said it before that looked like, especially when they were when they were posing, that Rock had this look in his face that he was going to turn on Hogan to fully play the heel role. Because not to jump forward, but you remember the next night when the Rock was trying to do his thing. Finally, the crowd wouldn't
Mhm.
let him, and he said it angrily.
Yeah.
Finally, and that's when you're like, okay, is he going to still turn
Yeah,
because of Hogan with the fans being, him changing?
so initially the NWO was going to stay together and Hogan was going to be a heel, but he got too over and then they called
Yeah,
the
they couldn't
audible
do
in the
it.
middle of the match and they're like, well, we'll just turn Hogan babyface and we'll have the NWO come out there and attack Hogan after the match.
So pretty much the NWO was crapped out. It's over.
Snake bit. It was snake bit, pretty much.
Yeah, once you pulled the audible, you buried the gimmick. It's
Right, right.
over.
That was one of the greatest WrestleMania matches over, just because of the crowd.
Absolutely.
And it was great
And we've
storytelling.
said it that this should have overshadowed,
Should have
and
been main event.
well, it did
It
overshadow the
did. It
main
should have been
event,
main
but it
event. It
should
should
have
have
been the
been.
main event.
But you know.
The two big huge stars like this, definitely. And so, he also tells Hall and Nash that night, don't come down to the ring. I got
Hmm.
this. I need to do this myself. And they're already upset in the fact that Hall lost to Austin. So when Hogan extends his hand to him, they calm down and they attack him. And once again, Hulk Hogan's out of the NWO. Yeah,
Yeah.
the next night on Monday Night Raw, when he came out, the crowd was electrifying. He was
Yeah.
still wearing the
Yeah, he's
NWO
still got the
colors,
black and white, but he's getting cheered like crazy, man. He's thanking the crowd for
and
everything.
the Rock's
Rock,
back out
yeah.
there.
And then they kind of
And again,
form.
you think Rock is still going to possibly
Hmm.
turn because they won't let him talk.
Yeah.
They're actually booing him a little bit, but mainly
Yeah.
because Hogan was in the
Yeah,
ring.
yeah. But then it's clear they're allies.
They came to their senses.
It's clear
Yeah,
that they're allies going forward.
because until the draft, each week they're going to be facing the NWO.
Right.
It kind of, to me personally, it was getting played out each and every week on Raw. They're facing them. They're facing them. They're facing them. It's just like, all right, already. Either do this on a pay per view or be done with it. It was getting a little. Unfortunately, it was getting a little played out.
Yeah, I just think they didn't know what to do. So
They didn't.
they were like, let's just do this. And I don't know. I mean, I thought it was fine. I understand what you're saying, but
So the night after WrestleMania, Hogan gets his hands on him as he teams with The Rock to meet Hall and Nash, and they defeat them by countout. Now, before the draft was looming and
yeah, the
coming
draft, yeah.
around, but before the being drafted to SmackDown, eventually Hogan got his hands on the NWO two more times because now they were drafted to Raw. On March 25th was the first occasion on Raw. Hogan and The Rock were disqualified in their handicap match against Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and X Pac.
Yeah, because I
They
remember what
put him in
happened.
there.
I remember what happened. The X-Pac had just come back. X-Pac came
Mhm.
out on SmackDown. I think it was was it Nash versus The Rock, and Hogan came out to help him because Hall got involved, and then X-Pac is back and he's in the NWO. He's not 6 though. He's X-Pac,
No,
but he's in the he's in. It's crazy. He was in DX and he was in NWO. Pretty interesting.
I would have had him come back as
He
6
should have came back as
because it's
6.
the NWO.
Yeah. So then that happened with that. I remember Vince was trying to get him to while it was looming, Vince was trying to get him to come back to go to SmackDown. He was trying to get him there, and he was still wearing the black at that point.
The last encounter was on the March 26th taping of SmackDown that was televised that week, where Hogan teamed with The Rock and Kane to defeat Hall, Nash, and X-Pac. And
oh man,
that promo they did
that promo
night
was hilarious when Kane was talking about the Canaanites.
Yes,
yeah, and he started
because Hogan's telling Rock, he goes, "I don't know about this dude Kane, brother." And then Kane comes in and just cuts that promo, and Rock is looking at him like, "What the hell?" That was good stuff, man.
Then I think it might be the week. Is it the week after he puts the yellow and red on?
Yeah,
because it was and they explained what was Bruce Pritchard said they wanted to be kind of like a transition into it. That's why the next night after WrestleMania they didn't put the red and yellow on him. They wanted
it wouldn't
it
have
to
made
be,
sense.
So he does come back on SmackDown with the red and the yellow. Now the thing is,
still has the beard and the Jimi Hendrix.
He should have came back with Real American. To me, that didn't make any sense. Bruce Pritchard said this. I probably think he is telling the truth. He said that Hogan wanted to keep the Jimi Hendrix. He said that if it was up to him, it would have been Real American, but he liked the Voodoo Child, and which sucks now because when you watch it, they didn't pay for the licensing rights. So if you go back on the network and rewatch this stuff, it's like some generic. They dub some generic song, and it messes with the crowd noise too because it's like a generic crowd.
So. If you have the original VHS recording from back
on YouTube, and you could, I think sometimes
on YouTube has it too.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I think he should have came back as the Real American,
red and yellow. Yeah.
But he was still American. He was still coming out as Hollywood.
And why did they keep calling? You know what
the boas?
Why did they keep calling him Hollywood? To me, Hollywood Hulk Hogan was a heel.
Yeah, and he didn't drop that until 2003.
2003, yeah.
All of 02,
he's still Hollywood. I'm like, why is he Hollywood Hulk Hogan? I did like the new shirts that he had.
Hulk
with
still rules.
Hulk still rules, and it was like it was the yellow letter. It was the red shirt with the yellow, but it had the like black around the yellow, so it kind of popped a little bit more. The yellow bandana with the Hulk still rules on it.
Not to
Hogan was in
mention
tremendous shape.
how many of those DVDs I had to order for you, for Dave,
I
for
had the whole Hulk
me,
still
for
rules. Yeah,
Jay,
yeah. I had
because
the yeah,
we had gotten one in for
yeah, yeah,
sale,
yeah, yeah. We had to order them.
and we
Yep,
all wanted it.
the Hulk still rules DVD. I
And
still
yeah,
have it. I still have it.
I still have
Yeah,
it
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Despite my feelings on the man, I
No,
still
no,
have
no,
that
no.
DVD.
It's out of print too. I'm never getting rid of that.
No, no, never.
But yeah, I just felt like he should have it should have been Real American, but
We got it one time, July 4th. That
right,
was
yeah,
it.
we'll get yeah.
And then when he came back in 05, oh 06 boat, we don't
Yeah.
count that. So in any event, um, April 16th, taping of SmackDown. Now Hogan teamed with his Backlash opponent, WWE Champion Triple H, as they defeated Chris Jericho and Kurt Angle.
Well,
Because
yeah.
now after WrestleMania, and Hogan's now the number one contender for the title.
Yeah, yeah. Vince made him the number one contender, and he had saved Edge the week before on SmackDown. I remember
Hmm.
he had saved Edge, so then they're starting to become friends, him and Edge. I think that was the match that tag match on SmackDown. I think Angle pushed Hogan. I think it's Angle pushes Hogan into Triple H by accident, and then Triple H whacks him with the
Yeah, and they
chair.
kind of got up each other. Yeah, they got up each other's
That's always
face.
gonna happen. You know what? It's reminding me of Hogan and Warrior.
Yeah,
That was kind of like what they were doing.
always with two baby faces. This
Yeah.
is something like this is going to
Mhm.
happen because Triple H is right now still the baby face, and of course Hogan is. And to me, as much as I didn't understand why Hogan got it, I was back then I was fine with it because that match between Hogan and Triple H I absolutely loved,
No,
and I love the soundtrack to that pay per view, Young Girl Old from Creed. That was perfect for that feud.
yeah. I mean, Hogan had also offered to watch his back, and Triple
Hmm.
H was like, I don't need your
But
help. I
yeah,
don't need you
yeah,
to
yeah, I
watch
don't
my
need your
back.
help,
Yeah.
brother. Made fun of him at one point. Started doing the this and all that.
Yeah,
So at Backlash, in what was to me, I I absolutely loved the match. I didn't particularly like the interference by the
yeah,
Undertaker, who, according to the Undertaker, on Monday Night Raw several weeks later, tells Hogan, "You won that match because of me."
right, yeah.
Well, technically he did, but I would have loved to see this done clean, Hogan and Triple H, because it's a match we've never
Yeah.
seen before for the
They were trying to
title.
protect Triple H though. They didn't want Hogan to go over clean because then it's kind of like diminishing Triple H's character. I
And
get it.
and after
Yeah,
the whole huge momentum he had coming
yeah.
back,
Mhm.
winning the Rumble and the title, yeah, I could see that.
No, they were just putting the belt back on him. It felt right to put he came back to WWF, give him one little run with
One
the
more
belt. It
run,
was right. It was only right. And he's
one
the
month anyway.
he's the first he's the last WWF champion and the first WWE
WWE
champion.
champion, yeah,
Because the name
because
change
they the
happened.
World Wildlife Fund
Hmm.
deal that happened. So, I mean, and Hogan did, he was fighting constantly. Now back then, during the beginning of that draft, whomever the WWE champion was wrestled on Raw and SmackDown. Now, if you lost to, let's say you lost to somebody on Monday Night Raw, you were now on Monday Night Raw, and that champion was to both
Right,
shows.
right, 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 right.
So Triple H was now on SmackDown,
Hmm.
where now and Hogan was doing both shows. And April 29th on Raw, Hogan defeated. He wrestled William Regal. He
Undertaker got
won by
involved.
disqualification.
Undertaker got involved in that
Yeah,
match. Yeah.
and this is where over the next month, heading to Judgment Day,
Well, remember they had.
the programs that those two guys worked.
Well, remember, or I think it was earlier that night was when Taker cut that promo on Hogan. He said he was gonna beat him like the bitch he was. Like he was getting really,
Yep,
really
and
harsh with Hogan. And
he
I just
mentioned how 7 years ago
yeah, he knew, yeah, yeah.
that how he did it. Yeah,
That was cool that they actually
uh,
brought up how they faced each other before. That was a really good promo.
hmm
It was really well done between the two of them.
not to mention the dragging him on the bike. We'll get to that in a little bit, but that was always fun too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, of course, you never really hear Hogan, use the language before, but I love how he comes out. Even he's on his Harley, and he's blah 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 blah. He goes, "I'm gonna beat you like the little bitch that you are." And
Well, remember
th-
he had well Hogan screwed up because Hogan stole his bike. But
yeah,
they
you don't do that.
but they met there was a whole screw up because the bike couldn't turn on. Something was wrong with the bike. I don't know. I don't know if you remember
Remember
it.
that?
Hogan couldn't get up. He couldn't get up the ramp.
Oh
He just
my
couldn't get up the ramp. He steals Undertaker's bike. Then he destroys it. And Undertaker's gonna vow revenge for that.
God.
And then
Yeah.
which he did get. He hit him with the pipe. What he hit him
Yes.
was a pipe. He hit him with something.
Lead pipe. Yeah.
Yeah, or
And then he dragged
crowbar or
him,
crowbar, and then he dragged
crowbar
him.
something.
And
And that night he was actually the match he was referring to was Hogan was defending. He was talking about Hogan defending the title against Jericho on SmackDown.
well, yeah,
And
and
that
the thing was that Hogan wanted to grant Triple H a title shot, but then Vince came out and said, "No, I'm not gonna. You're not getting a title shot because he said, hey, Triple H, when you beat Jericho, you didn't give him a title shot." Well, that was pretty funny. He didn't give him a rematch. It's true.
Yeah, we didn't see that. It was weird that they didn't do that.
Yeah.
With that, of course, that was H's doing.
Well,
But in any event, Hogan was successful against Chris Jericho. It was actually in a no disqualification
I
match.
think Triple H comes out in that match too. I think he gets involved. I think because he was feuding with Jericho too at the time. They were having
Yeah,
their
their feud was going to culminate in a Hell in a Cell
yeah,
match.
yeah.
The following week on SmackDown, the SmackDown taping, Hogan teamed with Edge to face Jericho and once again Kurt Angle, but the match was a no contest because due to the run-ins.
Was that when Triple H starts hitting everybody with a sledgehammer, or is that another time? I don't
I believe
remember.
it was this one where he was just irate
He
at this point.
snaps. He flips the
He
hell out.
he, he went batshit crazy.
Starts hitting everybody with the sledgehammer. I know at some point Hogan leg drops he leg drops Vince at some point, one of those SmackDowns.
And that's where the feud kind of was
Yeah,
starting.
yeah, that's when it was. Yep.
hmm So the one match I enjoyed back then was on May 13th on Raw when Hogan defended the title in a no disqualification match against Ric Flair. So
Oh, that was
we finally got the Hogan Flair title match
yeah. I mean, but that was that
10 years
was
later.
that was such a weird time. I was happy to see it, but that was such a weird time with Flair when he was dealing with the NWO. Like he was like with them, but he wasn't an official member. But he was like,
Plus, he was also trying to fill Austin's shoes because remember at this
right.
time Austin's now out and he's filling the card in places. So he's kind of like
Well, he
doing
had
two things
beef.
at
He
once.
had beef with Austin, and they were supposed to go into their own thing. And
Yeah, because it was the whole thing
but
with Flair and Big Show
but
and
in that
everything.
match, yeah, that Big Show stuff, yeah, and that match versus Hogan, there was so much interference. X-Pac comes out, Bradshaw comes out. I think
Bradshaw was feuding with the
that was
NWO
the night,
too.
and I think that was the night that Stone Cold came out too, and I think Stone Cold, he might have stunned Flair. I think I don't
He
remember
did.
because it was right.
Yeah, because he was still
Yeah, he was
they
still
were doing a
there.
program with him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. He had Hogan's back because I think Hogan had his back. Hogan was supposed to have his back,
yeah.
and then he gets the beating from Undertaker. There was some sort of a lumberjack match that Hogan was like, "Oh, I'm gonna help out Stone Cold. I'm gonna have his back," but he never made it because he got attacked backstage by Undertaker. So
Oh yeah. So unfortunately, though, his title reign
short
it
lived.
did short lived. I think I don't know. To me, personally, my opinion on the whole matter is I think everybody wanted to be have a piece of being the undisputed champion, and everybody wanted to have that belt. Because look how many champions we talked about it,
They
how many
passed it
they went
around.
through. After Jericho, Triple H, Hogan, Undertaker, Rock, Brock, Big Show, Angle. I
Yeah,
mean, it was so many that year, and it was happening monthly. I was surprised the Undertaker lasted two pay-per-views with the title.
yeah, I know. I thought they took it off Hogan too quick though. He should have held on to it for a little bit longer,
I
but
was kind of hoping he did, and he
yeah.
loses it to the Undertaker again.
Well, I think Vince got involved in that match though, right? Didn't he? There was some
Yeah,
chicanery.
Vince was at ringside,
Yeah.
and again, like we said, this is where that feud between the
hmm
two of them is going to start. The 20 years in the
Yeah.
making.
Then
Um,
we go over to SmackDown after that because Hogan. Remember, I don't know if you remember this. Hogan tries to retire. He gave the speech. He did everything he had to do. He came back. Hogan was trying to retire, and then that Vince comes out. Vince berates him, and then he says, "No, you're not getting out of this contract. I signed you. You're not going anywhere." And then Undertaker isn't beaten.
naturally,
Undertaker.
he's contemplating retirement. Yet, however, on June 6th on SmackDown, he's in a number one contenders match to win the winner that faces the Undertaker. And I was kind of hoping Hogan got his rematch against him because I just felt like he needed to face him one more time, and he loses to Triple H. So now Triple H is going to go on to the King of the Ring and face the Undertaker for the title.
Well,
And
what happened? This is the setup for that. What happened was
mhm,
they had that battle royal, and Hogan and
yeah,
Triple
and it
H were
came
the
down to
last.
Hogan and H. Yeah,
Oh, and they eliminated each other, right? So Vince says, "Well, I'm gonna ask the Undertaker." I guess he called Undertaker, and he says the Undertaker says he doesn't care who it is. So he says, "All right, you guys can
would have
have
been
a
nice
match."
if it was a triple threat.
Yeah. So he says, "You guys have a match for the number one contendership." So Hogan, I think Hogan, he had him. He kind of had Triple H beat, but Triple H pulls it out.
And they never had that third and decisive match between the two because you see Hogan and Undertaker had that third and decisive match because they had the two in '91. They each won one, and then the
Well,
Undertaker gets the upper hand
then
there.
then Undertaker and Kurt Angle beat up Triple H and Hogan after the match too.
Yep, and that would be Hogan's next thing
Mhm.
is Hogan would be feuding with Kurt Angle, and that match would result in going into the King of the Ring.
So Hogan was supposed to have a tag team match. It was supposed to be Hogan and Triple H versus Kurt Angle and The Undertaker. But what happened was Undertaker and Angle jumped Hogan backstage. So Triple H had a fight in a handicap match, essentially. And then Triple H just snaps, uses the steel chair, uses the sledgehammer. He just had enough. Hogan eventually does come down. The match was already over, and Hogan beats up Kurt Angle.
Yeah, it's not going to work for me, brother. So on June 23rd at the King of the Ring, Hogan faces Kurt Angle.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, in a losing effort, actually submits.
He put up a fight. He got to the ropes though. The ref just didn't break the damn hold. He did
Yeah,
because he
the
didn't tap
first
right
time,
away. He held
no, he
on. He was
didn't,
not tapping.
and the referee never broke the hold. We talked
Yeah.
about this in that
Hmm.
episode, and then he pulls him back, which he's supposed to break the hold. Referee didn't have to do it. Eventually, Hogan
Hmm.
tapped out. This after Hogan is playing games with his headpiece when Angle was going to walk out because
Uh,
Hogan had this one. And this is the first time Hogan's ever submit, and this is going to be one of two times in
yeah,
2002
yeah.
that somebody's going to make him submit.
Hmm.
And by this point, I'm like, okay, Hogan is lost to Undertaker. Now he's lost to Kurt Angle.
Triple H.
Is it and Triple H? Is it now time to just call it because this is like a bootleg thing. You're constantly losing. This is
Yeah,
not the
he's putting
Hogan we
people
know.
over. I mean, he's putting people over, but I get what you're saying. He goes over, then he goes on to SmackDown. I think he fights Jericho. Is that
He
right?
beat on June
Yeah.
27th on SmackDown. He beat Jericho by
But
disqualification.
right, but that night, I think Jericho hits him with a chair. I think that's what happened. The ref sees it, he hits him with a chair. But that night, they keep teasing Vince versus Hogan because Vince confronts him backstage, and
Hmm.
he's like, "Oh, I don't want to see you tap again. You just tapped, and you might have to tap to Jericho on the walls of Jericho." And then Hogan points at Vince. He says, "One day, Vince, one day," because remember he actually wanted he did want to fight him. He didn't want.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's later on he challenges him to a fight, and then I think that's what happened. I think he challenged him to a fight, and then Angle got involved. That's what happened.
Hmm.
So
And let's not forget, Hogan actually did have one more final title match on an MSG show on June 29th. Hogan challenged The Undertaker, but it was in a losing effort. So that was his final title opportunity
yeah,
on a house show, unfortunately. But the most surprising thing we got to see is on the 4th of July SmackDown. We
yeah,
got to see not only Hogan team with Edge to face Billy and Chuck for the tag titles, but one night only, we're playing Real America.
yeah. And they had already built a friendship, him and Edge, and
Mm-hmm.
He had caught Edge backstage. He put the Hulkamania gear. I don't remember that. He puts the boa on. He puts the Hulkamania gear. He starts cutting a promo, and then Hogan walks in. So they had developed a friendship because remember Hogan was like his childhood hero. He was at WrestleMania
Yes, he
6
was
with
WrestleMania
Christian,
6. Yeah,
you know. So that was pretty cool. They came out to Real American, and to the shock of everybody, they won the tag team titles.
double leg drop by each of
Yeah.
them. Edge gets the
Hmm.
pin. They win the tag team titles from Billy and Chuck. So finally, a shining light for Hulk Hogan. But I mean, that wasn't going to last long. But that night, they celebrated by waving the American flag
Yep.
and everything. So it was good to see. Um, the following week, Hogan continues the winning streak because in a non-title match, Hogan and Edge once again beat Billy and Chuck.
Hmm.
So this was good. This was good to see that at least okay, they put him in a tag team. He's gonna start winning. The following week after that, along with Edge and Rikishi, they would defeat the entire Un-Americans team of Christian, Lance Storm, and Test. Because
Yep.
if you remember on SmackDown, they were outraged by the fact that Hogan and Edge won the tag
Yeah,
titles
yeah,
and that the Canadian team didn't
yeah,
have it.
yeah, yeah.
Now, this is where I called BS in WWE at Vengeance. When Hogan and Edge lost the tag titles to Christian and Lance Storm, that's when I threw my hands up and said, "All right, this shit's over. It's over. It's
That,
over."
yeah, that was disappointing when they lost. You know what's interesting? Like before that, on the 18th of SmackDown, I'm sorry, July 18th SmackDown, Bischoff had just came back, and Bischoff was trying to get people to come over to Raw. And it's funny because Bischoff got there right after the NWO was
Was gone.
disbanded.
Yeah, it was once it
He
was, it was
just
done.
he just missed
He just missed it
he
by a
just
week, I
missed it.
think.
Yeah, by a week. It was by a week. Yep. And so we
Would
got
have been
Hulk.
cool if he could run it.
Yeah, I know what a disappointment. But we
Uh,
got for one night we got the Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan reunion on SmackDown because Bischoff went into Hogan's locker
you
room.
know,
He's kind of trying to recruit him, and he's like, "Oh, look at the cat dragged." And Hogan's kind of giving him a hard time, and Hogan's like, "Oh, I know you're just here to recruit The Rock," and he's like, "Oh, you know." And he starts asking about Edge. You know, he's a young guy, whatever. He's like, "Are you guys a package deal?" And then Hogan says, "You're negotiating, brother." And he says, "One thing you taught me, Hogan, is." You're always negotiating,
always negotiating.
and then
Yes,
he walks out. That was cool. It's a forgotten moment that we got Bischoff and Hogan in WCW. Nobody
at
remembers
least
this.
at least one time,
One night, yeah.
one
Yeah.
night.
Mhm.
So uh, on follow the SmackDown after Vengeance now, Hogan did get a little bit of revenge against Christian and Lance Storm. He teamed with The Rock
The Rock for
and
the tag
defeated them.
titles. Yeah, so that night they almost won the tag titles. Hogan had Christian beat. You know, Rock and Hogan almost won the titles. But then Brock Lesnar jumps in there and interferes, and then
F5's Hogan.
F5 Hogan and hell.
Well, they were looking to become the tag team champions, and Brock knows he's got a date at SummerSlam against The Rock.
Yeah.
But funny thing that comes out of this is going to be a program now. Hogan working with Brock
Right, eventually sets up
for
that
that
feud.
title
Yeah.
shot,
It eventually sets it up, yeah.
and but before that, Hogan had one more encounter prior to his date with Destiny with Lesnar. The next week on SmackDown, following their close winning of the tag titles, Hogan defeated Kurt Angle by DQ.
Well, what happened was Angle had come out that night on SmackDown, and Angle called out Brock Lesnar because he wanted a piece of Brock Lesnar. He wanted a shot at the title. Then Hogan comes out and says, "No, if anybody's gonna fight Brock, it's gonna be me." I think Stephanie eventually just says, "No, what you guys are gonna do is you guys are gonna fight Hogan versus Angle, and then the winner will get a shot at the next big thing, Brock Lesnar." So Hogan actually won, he won by disqualification. But then Brock Lesnar comes out again and then gives Hogan a beating. And then he gets into his limo. To add insult to injury, he gets in Hogan's limo.
This was actually cool. This was they were setting up, pretty much a pay-per-view style match
Mm.
that we would be getting on SmackDown. And this on August 8th edition of SmackDown, Hogan faced Lesnar in a
Yeah.
number one contenders match.
Yeah, but it was a good build up though, because
It was.
they had the backstage segments and everything, where Brock actually confronted Hogan backstage. And he was trying to intimidate Hogan, and Hogan was telling him, like, all right, why don't you, you're so confident, basically, why don't you put up your title shot? And Heyman's flipping out because Lesnar accepts, and Heyman's, what are you doing? You know who this is? This is Hulk Hogan. This is the legend, of the sport. So it was actually a fairly decent build up to, here's the irony of this whole situation is that Stone Cold left because of something like this.
Yeah, because it wasn't built up to be a pay-per-view match that he claimed he wanted.
Yeah.
And Hogan's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Only he's doing it.
Yeah, only he's about to put him over. I like Hogan's promo though. He talks about I'm gonna need the Hulkamaniac's help and everything. And man, even though we're grown at this point, man, at that point, I'm a Hulkamaniac and I'm cheering for Hogan, man. I want him to pull off the miracle. I know he's not. we know Brock Lesnar's going to
I'm
SummerSlam.
watching this
We
match
know
he's going to the hospital.
yeah, we know it's almost inevitable, right? The outcome, but we're still cheering, and the crowd was going crazy for Hogan, chanting Hogan.
Hmm. And I mean, he held his own during the match,
He did.
hulked up when
Damn,
he had to. He
Heyman got
dropped the leg
involved.
drop.
Yeah, Heyman
Yep.
got involved. He was gonna go for the second leg drop because Lesnar actually kicks out of the first one. He's going for the
Hmm.
second one, and then Heyman grabbed him. Then
He gets
gets
F5'd,
F5, and then what does he get? Bear hugged, right?
bear
Yeah.
hugged,
And
and
then
this is the second time this
he's
year that
bleeding. He's bleeding out of his mouth. You see the
and he
capture
taps.
the
Oh
yeah.
yeah, I saw that on. Yeah, you love that on his
Mhm.
shoulder. You just tweet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can see the speaker. He didn't tap out though. It's just the arm just kept going down,
yeah.
and
So
they rang the
but
bell.
he technically loses by submission,
Yeah, but he.
and Brock Lesnar beats the Immortal Hulk Hogan. Now, what I was looking forward to going after SummerSlam, because we all know Brock's winning the title, was Hogan making a comeback following that and challenging Lesnar for the title.
Yeah, but how about
And
the
I and
fact
I
that
and I thought they were going to do some type of work with it, and
well,
they didn't.
how about the fact that after he wins, then he hits him with a chair shot, and he leaves Hogan there like bleeding and everything, adding insult to
Puts
injury.
puts the blood
The
across
blood
his
on. That was
chest.
so sad, man. As a Hulkamaniac, even though I'm an adult at this point, as a Hulkamaniac, I'm having flashbacks.
My childhood
Earthquake.
is on your chest.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh no, and I know why they did it, just to legitimize
Brock Lesnar,
Lesnar
which
even
at
going
this
into some.
point
And I'm
he
like, it's
didn't
so.
need
I
it.
just felt like he didn't need it. It was just. I felt like it was just too much, and then he beats The Rock. But Hogan leaves
Yeah,
after this. So what happens is, from what I understand, Hogan had a lot of injuries. He was pretty banged up.
he's fatigued. Yeah,
So he's fatigued. He hasn't worked a schedule like this in years.
yeah,
Years.
because he wasn't working this many dates in WCW.
No, not at all. So
I think his workload there was like 120 to 150, if that.
whatever the hell it was. But he wants to take a little time off to heal up his injuries and everything. He's banged up. He does want to come back. He wants to continue wrestling. So it's funny that you mentioned the rematch because he was actually supposed to, I don't know if you've heard the story. He was supposed to come back for Survivor Series. It was supposed to be Hogan versus Brock Lesnar in the rematch. But Hogan was like, listen, this guy already destroyed me. If I come back, I gotta go over. And I
Exactly, he
have
has to beat him.
and I have to agree with Hogan at this point. I have to agree with him because he already got his ass whipped.
Well,
I
look
under
who beat him at Survivor Series. I would have rather Hogan do it
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
because Big Show beats him.
Right, right. I understand Big Show's a big monster, so it's a little okay. It's kind of believable to a degree. Okay, fine, but
Well, the
the
way they were portraying his character then, yeah.
yeah. So I get it, but the whole thing that would have been big business. That would have been great. I understand. There's two arguments. Brock Lesnar was getting pushed to the moon at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you gonna have Hogan come back? But I felt like this could be like Rocky Five, man. Like Tommy Gunn versus the old Rocky
I hear no
Balboa.
bell.
Yeah, Hogan comes back. Even if he only beats him that one night and he loses like a night later or a week later,
Well,
whatever it is.
Hogan could have did the same thing that Big Show did the next month at
Right, right, right,
Armageddon,
right, right,
lose the
right,
title to
right,
Kurt
right, right.
Angle.
I think, but it was Vince that he wouldn't budge, and Hogan was like, you know what, that doesn't work for me, brother. So he sits out the rest
At
of
this
the
point,
year.
I can't blame him.
No, no, no. I gotta agree with Hogan, and I gotta agree with
Yeah, I
Hogan.
gotta agree with
It's
him.
a shame. It's a shame because what that could have been, you know. But that's basically Hogan in 2002. We will cover his 2003 Hogan slash Mr. America fiasco.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so that's our episode. You guys please like, comment, share, subscribe. See you guys soon.
Take care.